Hello, thank you for asking your question. Finding these c-values and modeling trig functions can be a little tricky. So I just went ahead and created a plot of all the data, and I put in what you had so far because you told me that you had no problem finding A, B, and D, but C is a little tricky. So we can see that this current model does not fit the data because the graph needs to be shifted to the right. Now, how far to the right do we want to shift the graph? Well, right now our model peaks at 3 and our data peaks at 9. So I would have shifted this graph 6 units to the right by subtracting 6 on the inside of the parentheses right there with the x. And you can see now this is a fairly good fit for that data. They shifted it 5 units to the right. I would have shifted 6, and I think that if you would have shifted 6, that this would have been right. On the other hand, shifting 2 units left makes it a bit of a worser fit for the data. Just to check my theory, I'm going to do a similar question. I am going to first create a scatter plot for this data. Let me turn this graph off. So I'm just going to go ahead and plot these points, and then I'm going to try to work through this and find the c-value. Okay, so this is what my plot of the data looks like. I would have needed to do a similar plot over a 2-year period, and I think if I would have repeated that, I probably would have seen something like A that looks the most like what we have. So now let's work on finding a model for this. So this is going to be a sine curve. They already told us that. I'm going to find the amplitude. So let me just go ahead and take all this out. I'm going to find the amplitude first. Looks like the highest y value we have is 83. And the lowest y value that we have is 70. So taking 83 minus 70 is 13. Splitting that in half gives me 6.5. Again, that graph's going to be way, because it's not turned on. Okay, that graph is way down there. So I definitely have to shift the graph up. And I know that the midpoint between this max and this min, between 83 and 70, if I take 70 and move 6.5 units up, it would be at 76.5. So I'm going to go ahead and shift the graph up to where it needs to be. The period is also off here. It's the same idea where we have 12 months in the year, so the period is 6. Using the formula, the period equals 2 pi over b, we could get that that's pi over 6. And I know I'm going through this fast, but this is not the part that you asked me about. So let's see here. This graph peaks at 7 and this graph peaks at 3. I would have shifted this graph 4 units to the right. So I would have done an x minus 4 in there. And let's see if this is correct. I wonder if I can just copy and paste this in here. No. Okay, so 6.5 sine pi over 6. X minus 4 plus 76.5. Booyah. So yeah, my advice would just be to track those maximum points. Look and see where the data you have peaks, and then look and see where your model peaks before you shift it. So when it's just like that, look and see the difference between those 2 peaks, and then use that to shift your graph over. If you have any other questions about this, please let me know. I'm happy to meet with you on Zoom and go over this in more detail.